زمینا تر میشه گل نسا جونام کارا بهتر میشه گل نسا جونام تو شالی زاره برنج میکاره میترسم به چاد طاقت نداره سلام، اسم من ران لپیتنه. خوشبختم. 23 سال دارم. توی شهر فرفکس زندگی میکنم. فرفکس در ویرجینیا هست که در شمال ایالات متحده وجود داره. با مادر، پدر و برادرم زندگی میکنم. خانواده‌ام فیلیپینی و مسیحی هم. بارون میباره زمینا تر میشه گل نسا جونام کارا بهتر میشه گل نسا جونام قصه نداره زمستون میره پشتش بهاره. I was born in 1994 in Fort Collins, Colorado. One thing about Filipino families is we always stick together. For example, when my brother and I started going to college, our parents sold their old house and they bought this house, which is right across the street from the school, just so we could walk home every night and have dinner together. Our lives were very comfortable because our parents worked very hard to give us a really good life. They both came from the Philippines and they came to the United States to study, and they were actually supposed to go back to the Philippines, but when they graduated, the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos, changed the democratic government into a military dictatorship. So my dad actually says that during that time in the Philippines, nobody went to work because the streets were just filled with rioting. So their friends told them to do everything they had to do to stay here in the United States. So my mom and dad actually lived apart for several years because they had to go wherever they could in the United States where they could find work. And then when they finally were able to get stable jobs and get a house together, they had my brother and I, and that's why we were born in the United States. My dad was very good at drawing, and I would always bring him pictures from magazines and ask him to copy them for me. And then eventually he said, "I'm tired of doing this, so you have to learn to do it by yourself." So then I started drawing and practicing, and then eventually drawing comics by myself, and it became a really big hobby for me. One time when I was having a conversation with my mom, and she said, "If you have 10 pennies, you should give 9 of them to God, and then you should keep 1 of them for yourself."
I remember one time, I wasn't here, I was in San Diego. It's just, his mom just told me about it. And she told me that Ronnie went out to Roslyn and he's got $20 bills. I think he's got about 1,000 of them, $20 bills. And he was giving it to the homeless. So I called Ronnie and I was angry, and I told Ronnie, "Look, Ronnie, I wasn't angry because you're giving away money. I mean, that's your choice, and I'm proud of you for doing that. I mean, they know now that you're carrying cash. What if they beat you up for that?" I mean, he was all alone by himself.
My relationship with my brother was very good. We're actually twins. His interest is in performing arts. He actually likes to break dance. So we have really different interests, but we're able to teach each other a lot. And I guess like when you become teenagers, that's hard because you are so close, you are always together, but then you start having like different friends and different interests. So there's kind of like a space of time where you just feel like you get disconnected, and then when you get older, you become friends again, if that makes sense. And you're like, teach me all the stuff you got interested in during those few years when we didn't talk to each other. living in Colorado is very different from Virginia because Colorado, it's beautiful, there's lots of nature, but it's a really small town, so there's you have to drive very far to get somewhere, and it's hard to find people, you know? But when you come here to Virginia, it's full of people, and not only that, but it's so many diverse people, all different kinds of cultures, and you just won't find that in Virginia. In high school, I got a lot more interested in studying because that's just the age when you start to think about things like, what kind of person do I want to be? Or what kind of world do I want to live in? And besides that, just being happy that today I'm learning something that I didn't know yesterday. And that's just a really beautiful thing by itself, you know? Well, my mom, she always taught us that it's really important to serve others. So she's a scientist, actually. What she does is she studies plants and how to grow plants in order to better serve people. For example, if there's a community in Africa where the small farmers there, their plants are being affected by a pest or a disease, she'll study how do you breed a version of that crop that is immune to this pest so that the farmer can make more profits from their crop. So one thing that my mom taught me a lot was when you know what your talents are, you should use those talents to help make the world a better place for others. A friend and I, when we were in high school, started an after-school club, and it was called the Peace Club. And what we did was we just tried to do things that would make people's day better, make people smile. So there was one day when we asked the principal, can you ask all the janitors not to clean the bathrooms tonight? And he said yes. So what we did was we went into the girls' and boys' bathrooms and we wrote on all the bathroom mirrors. So when the students came the next morning and they went to the bathroom, they would see something on the mirror like, you are beautiful, for example. Or if you woke up the best you possible, you would look like this. And then it's just the mirror showing their face. And then we went on to the morning announcements and we said, you may have noticed we wrote on all the bathroom mirrors and they had these messages. And we just wanted to show you that your words have an effect. So if you liked this, go see somebody in the hall and tell them you hope they're having a good day or something like that. So that was my favorite after-school club, probably. When we were growing up, our parents took us to church, which I think was a really good thing because they wanted us to know morals and, to learn how to be thankful to God and to have spirituality. But I remember when I was a kid, I was always really unhappy being at church because the thing is, a lot of churches, they talk about their truth as if it's the only truth out there. And I always just really had a problem with that because, I was born in a Christian family, but another person is just as easily born into a Muslim family or a Buddhist family, and they will come to believe in that as the truth as strongly as I believe in mine. And what's more, they'll believe in justice and compassion and service just like I do. So how can mine be better just because it's mine, And the sad thing is, a lot of people in the United States don't know anything that's outside of their own truth. A lot of Christians, this really surprised me, don't know that the Quran talks about Jesus or that Muslims also believe in Christ. So we're just really divided and there's a lot of prejudice and we just don't know how the same we are. When I was in high school, I had a neighbor who introduced himself to me as Baha'i, and he invited me to this prayer gathering that he held in his home every week. And when I went, they were talking about this vision that's in the Baha'i faith of people of all religions being united and working together to make a better world. And I just fell in love with it. So I kept going to these gatherings, and we would read verses from the Bible, the Avesta, the Quran, and from all these other religions about things like justice and service. And they sounded like they were saying the same thing. And I was just really attracted to that unity between them. So I just had this feeling of, yeah, this is everything I ever wanted religion to be, and I can't believe it actually exists, but here it is. The friend who had this devotional, he said, so there happens to be a Baha'i who lives a few floors above you in your apartment who has a fireside, which is where people come together and they talk about the Baha'i faith. So I went upstairs, or started going upstairs in my apartment building to this person's fireside, and that's where I learned more the stories about Baha'u'llah and who Baha'u'llah was, and more the theology of there are these different manifestations of God who come in different ages, but they all come from the same God, and it's the same religion, just in different chapters. So that only just solidified the feeling for me, like, this is a perfect religion, you know? And then it's funny, the reason why they found out that I wanted to be Baha'i was just because when I was at the devotional one night, I asked a person next to me, are you Baha'i? And the person said, no. Are you? And I said, yes. And then the person who hosted the devotional was like, what? Really? So that's the part where he said, well, I think you should ask your parents first to see if they're united with this decision. So my parents were very afraid when they saw me falling in love with this new religion because they didn't know what it was. So my friend who hosted this devotional, he said, let's invite them over for dinner and we'll just get to know them and let them ask any questions that they have.
My first question is like, what is that? What is Baha'i? Is that some kind of another religion? I didn't have any problem with it, and because I'm always open to my kids.
And the beautiful thing is, before that night, my parents thought that Christians and Baha'is were so different because they'd never heard of a Baha'i. But when they actually took the time to sit down with a Baha'i and get to know them, they found that our beliefs are very much the same. So whatever happened, my parents and my Baha'i friends actually became good friends that night, and my dad even said something like, you know, I think the Baha'i faith makes sense because if all religion was like this, the world would be different, you know?
We're very supportive of whatever Ronald is doing. Is whatever makes him happy would make us happy. And we see that his work in the Baha'i community is something he's very passionate about and something that he wants to devote his life to, and we as his parents would do everything to support him.
So the next morning, I thought, well, this is the time I gotta ask my parents. So we got together at breakfast and I told them, look, I was waiting for last night for a while because I wanted to tell you today that I believe in these teachings. I would like to declare myself as a Baha'i. And my heart was pounding when I said it. And I'll never forget that my father said, well, you know, we were really scared at first because we didn't know what this was. But now that we've met your friends and learned about the faith, we see we believe in many of the same things. So declare with our blessing. And that was the happiest day of my life, probably.
We have seen the change in Ronald. You know, he was, at one point he grew up, you know, as just like any regular teenager. He was rebellious, but when he started to have that relationship with Peter and began attending Baha'i and being very serious, very committed, he changed too in the way he related to us. You know, it was just tremendous to see the the change in his entire demeanor and the way he relates to us and how sweet he has been to us, you know. So it's been wonderful.
After I became Baha'i, I got involved in community service. And the service that I do in the Baha'i community, it's called a junior youth group, which it's where we work with middle school aged youth of different religions to encourage them to use their talents and energy to improve the community. So the youth that I work with are Christians, Muslims, Baha'is, and my co-teachers are atheists and agnostics. So this is how Baha'is imagine the world being, where different people of different backgrounds are working together because we share a dream of a world where all of us can exist. من به این دلیل علاقه‌مند شدم زبان فارسی را یاد بگیرم که توی برنامه‌های بهایی خیلی مردم هست که فقط فارسی بلدند، انگلیسی بلد نیستند. اما اگه تو میتونی فارسی صحبت کنی لبخند میزنند. پس خیلی خوشحال میشم وقتی دوستان لبخند میزنند. فکر میکنم که خوشم بیاد. بلند فکر میکنم.
Allah, good to see you.
مشتاق دیدار. مرسی خیلی خوبم. تو خوبی؟
خوبم. عجب هوای خوبی ها. می‌بینی چه باد خوبی میاد.
خیلی خوبیه.
چند روز پیش خیلی رطوبت هوا زیاد بود. رطوبت می‌دونی چی؟
نه.
Humidity.
تکرار کن.
Humidity. رطوبت. میشه
رو
تا
مثل شرجی.
آفرین.
آمیانه.
آره.
تخ.
ایف. آفرین.
ارزون بدین مشتری شیم.
اینا خوب بلدی که. ماشاءالله.
شب بود بیابان بود زمستان بود بوران بود سرمای فراوان بود یارم در آغوشم هراسان بود از سردی افسرده و بی جان بود از بحر آن سیمین بر خوشگل از جسم و جان خود بودم غافل می کوشیدم برش از جان و دل می بردمش با خود سوی منزل گیسویش از باد و باران گشته آشفته در مویش گویی مروارید غلطان خفته طی شد راه دشوار آخر بر من و یار با بوسه گرمی به او دادم با لبهای چون قند بر رویم زد لبخند بردان همه رنج و غم از یادم. When you find the thing that you fell in love with, it's not like anything about you changed. It's more like you realize that something you were all along had a name, and you just found it. گذشتت مهم نیست. مهم اینه که دنبالش باشی. مثل نسیم خودش میوزه.